His haircut. Who told him that that looks good? What would go through his mind to think that that's attractive?
You are Locked On Fantasy Basketball, your daily podcast on fantasy basketball. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Fantasy Basketball podcast brought to you by Basketball Monster. My name is Josh Lloyd and as always you can find me on Twitter at redrock_Bebe. There were 9 games on Monday for me to look at. There are 4 games on Tuesday for me to preview. So
let's get to it.
Let's get to it indeed. Lots to talk about. Now, one thing, I have reinstituted the music break in between the season-long and DFS portion of the show. If you are in a band and would like your music featured on the show, please either email me or send me a message or a tweet, and we'll see where we go from there. So thank you. The band, the music I'm playing at the moment is called Semeron. It's Semeron. So people have been asking me that. It is the band Semeron. And their listeners, or at least some of the band members, are listeners to this podcast. So if you want to have your music featured on the show, please hit me up and let me know. The current music we're using is Semeron's music for the transition music in the middle of the show. Let's get stuck straight into the action from Monday. We will start with the monstrous line of the night.
My name is Jeff.
Yes, his name is Jeff, and it is Jeff Teague, who put up a monster performance, 23 points, which included 3 triples, 5 rebounds, but the real money makers come from the 11 assists and the 6 steals from Teague, 7 of 18 from the field and a perfect 6 of 6 from the line. He is the 61st ranked player this season, which is about 15 to 20 spots ahead of where he was getting drafted. I thought he was getting a little bit overdrafted. He's settled almost into the area that we thought he'd be in, 14, 3, and 7.5. The 2 steals he's getting is a little bit high. The 43% field goal is probably a little bit low, so those 2 things will probably balance out. And this is the area he'll be in, that 55 to 70 range, I would guess, for the season, putting up some good numbers. There'll be the occasional game when Thibodeau reduces his playing time, but most of the time, he's going to get lots of minutes. He's going to be solid. He'll get those assists. He'll get some steals. He'll hit some threes, and he'll just do what he does. And I thought he might take a little bit more of a hit this season, and he is. He's 1 point per game less so far this year. And taking half a shot less a game. It's probably a lower hit than what I expected, with Jimmy Butler taking a bigger hit. Teague could be the one who, when Butler gets it figured out, he might be the one that loses it a bit. But for now, I don't think there's anything to be really too concerned about or too worried about. It's just been solid performance after solid performance from Jeff Teague, and I always love him getting the monstrous line of the night so I can do this again.
My name is Jeff.
Always enjoy doing that one. The waiver wire line of the night goes to Bebe Nogueira of the Toronto Raptors. Bebe moved into the starting lineup with Jonas Valanciunas and Serge Ibaka both out. He had 17 points. He hit a 3. He had 9 rebounds. He had 2 assists, but he had 2 steals. He had 5 blocks. He was 7 of 8 from the field, and he was 2 of 4 from the free throw line. Amazingly, Bebe is the 30th ranked player this season. That is craziness. He's only played 3 games. Only played 22 minutes a game, but averaging 10 and 8 with 2 steals and 2.3 blocks, shooting 68% from the field. So all that value is coming from the steals, it's coming from the blocks, and it's coming from the field goal percentage. So I got a lot of questions, say, do I go and add Bebe? And we do have to realize one thing here, that both Ibaka and Valanciunas were out, so they started a front court of Siakam and Bebe. Now, in the games when the Raptors have been entirely healthy in the front court, Bebe wasn't even in the rotation. We had Valanciunas as the starting center. For that matter, Siakam wasn't even in the rotation either. We had Valanciunas as the starting center. We had Poeltl as the backup. And I think that today's game, Poeltl, they like to keep him in that backup role, but Bebe was playing so well, they gave him the extra minutes. In the previous games, Poeltl was getting 25 to 26 minutes a night. I don't think that there's any need to overreact to this one. I do think that Ibaka is going to miss more time. That probably means more for Siakam. I don't think it's going to mean that Siakam moves out of the rotation so they can run Poeltl, Valanciunas, and Nogueira all the time. I don't think that'll be the case. But if JV has to miss another game, then Bebe does have some short-term value, and he looks great, and he's always been a really good fantasy producer. I was just of the impression that Poeltl had overtaken him in the rotation, which he had. He was a guy that was barely outside the top 120 last season, Bebe, in his backup role. But once Ibaka joined the team, he was out of the rotation last season too. So in a deeper league, you can have a look, but I wouldn't be expecting this to hold from Bebe Nogueira. As good as I think he can be, and as really fantasy-friendly as his game is, I just think the situation that he's in, the minutes, the role, all that, everything was a perfect situation for him today with both the starters in the front court out, and he got hot, and that limited what Pirtle can do. But he probably moves back to third string when everyone is back in business with the Raptors in their front court. The young gun of the night, didn't really ever think I was going to be announcing this guy as the young gun, and that is Brandon Paul of the San Antonio Spurs. Paul played 30 minutes, including 18 points. He hit 3 triples with 5 rebounds, an assist, a steal, and a block. His shooting has been red hot. In fact, over the last 4 games, in which he's got at least 19 minutes in all 4 of those games, 67%, 67%, 50%, and then he was at 75% from the field in this game. This is his first double-digit scoring game of his career. The value here comes from the fact that Kawhi Leonard was out. It comes from the fact that Joffrey Laverne was out. He's been getting these extra minutes in the games that Laverne has missed as they push everyone down a spot. And also, of course, Manu Ginobili was out resting in this one. So Paul got that extra opportunity. Now, he's been playing well, and I imagine that he does stick in the rotation, at least until Kawhi comes back. But the last 3 games, he's been 21, 21, and 30 minutes. I think that sort of playing time once Laverne comes back will be harder for him to maintain. And again, in those games with 21 minutes, it's not like he was doing what he did today. He scored 6 points and 5 points in those 2 games. Did have 3 steals in one of them. Really a 20-team league sort of a player. He has been relatively solid this season, averaging 5 points, but the 67% field goal percentage makes his rank look a lot higher than what it should when you go look on the rankings pages, and I wouldn't be expecting too much to stick from Brandon Paul, but he has played well. Popovich was quite praising of him in the post-game press conference, and he will have a role, but he's ahead of Bryn Forbes. Remember how high everyone was on Bryn Forbes in Summer League? Man, he's going to overtake everyone. Brandon Paul is ahead of him at the moment, and Paul can do some things, but it's not going to be a real impactful situation, I don't think, for fantasy leagues. The dud of the night, it goes to Dwight Howard, who scored 2 points. He was 1 of 9 from the field. He missed both of his free throws. He had 7 rebounds and a block. Dwight has been really, really good this season. His free throws have been an absolute abomination on 36% on 8 attempts per game. We're talking about almost 3 times as large a negative impact in free throws as what he had last season. That's how bad it is. You look at standard scores and Z scores. Last year he was a negative 3.9. This year he's a negative 9.2. There is no recovery from that sort of percentage and that sort of volume from Howard. But if you drafted him, you're well aware of that. You shouldn't give 2 shits about his free throw percentage. You know it's toast. He's averaging 14 and 15. He's averaging 1.7 blocks, 0.3 steals, and 55% from the field, which could stand to increase a little bit more. He is taking an extra 2 shots per game this season. And he's a guy that's a clear must-own in a punt free throw situation. Today just wasn't a good one from Dwight, but he will bounce back. He won't go 1 of 9 all that often this season. And the rebounds, the points, the blocks, they'll all be better than what they were in this game. So I wouldn't get too worked up over this stinker from Howard. Let's look at the 9 games now across the NBA, going through all of these box scores. The first one of these games, the Denver Nuggets fell to the Eastern Conference favorites, the New York Knicks. Nikola Jokic, he's still pretty good.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
28 points, 6 triples, 6 of 10 from 3. That's crazy. 8 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal, and a block. He's been... People were disappointed with him to start the season, and rightfully so, but we see these things, they change pretty quickly, and Jokic is back to being the 24th ranked player this season. His assists are well down. He is fitting, or they're fitting things around him more than what they were doing with Millsap. He's got, I guess, somewhat of a passive personality. We saw it last season, how he would defer to Nurkic. Oh, let's get Nurk in there. Let's get him to work. And I feel like he was doing the same thing with Millsap. Paul's here. Let's run things through him. And then they just go, well, it's not working. And then he just goes, right, everyone get out of the way, and I'm just going to do my thing. And that's what's happened, it feels like, over the last 3 or 4 games. But initially, he's very polite, like, after you. No, after you. And that feels like what he was doing. Now he's like, nah, screw this shit. Like, I'm taking over. And that's sort of the way it's feeling for Jokic at the moment. Gaz was back, 18 points, 4 triples, 3 assists, 3 steals, and a block. I've literally had people saying, oh yeah, should I drop Gary Harris? No, you shouldn't. You absolutely should never drop Gary Harris. I don't understand this thought process. He's only 80% owned, which is just crazy. He's good. He's really good. The minutes aren't going anywhere. This is what he had a couple of shaky games. Own him. It's as simple as that. The Blue Arrow. Multiple tweets directed at me today at halftime, "Oh, this guy's trash. He has one good game for the season. You named the show after him yesterday. He's been useless all season. Has one good game a month." Apologies to the people who I am hanging shit on here who tweeted me that, but it was at halftime. He then scored 20 points in the second half. He's now had 2 really strong good games in a row. He's had 3 strong games this season. Yes, the other 3 games have been pitiful, but he's fine. Yes, Emmanuel Mudiay was looking good in the first half, but Murray played 32 minutes. Mudiay played 20. You have to own him. You have to own him. It was a bad first half, but popping off on someone in the first half when there's a second half to go, similar thing with Tim Hardaway, like these things can happen. This is why you have to maintain the level of faith. Really strong game from Murray. A strong game from Mudiay as well. I picked Mudiay up in a 14-team league, and I'm happy with that decision before today's game as well. 15-1-1, 2 steals and 3 triples. Looking much better, carrying on that form he had in the second half of last season, looking a lot stronger than what he did prior to that. Old baby neck Wilson Chandler back to his shitful form, 6-3-4 with a steal and a steal. In a 10-teamer, see you later. In a 12, I don't think there's any upside there with Wilson, so old baby neck can go to the wire in most of those cases. Farton, Will Barton, the minutes are down once again. 24 minutes, 13-4-2 with 2 steals. Those numbers are still good. He had a fantastic finish, I think, in the third quarter on this reverse layup. It looked awesome, and he can be fun in that sense. I just don't think he's very good, but I still think that he should be owned in 12-team leagues. While Paulie Millsap, lots of questions coming my way about him. 8-10 with 2 triples, 2 steals and a block, and a disgusting 2 of 13 from the field and 2 of 4 from the line. The shooting percentages will be better than this. You got good defensive numbers, but he's not becoming a top 20 player again. He's probably not becoming a top 30 player again. He is the 134th ranked player this season. A lot of that is due to the fact that he is on under 42% shooting, 70 from the line, but only 0.6 steals and 0.9 blocks. It is limiting his overall value. I think you should be looking at him as a guy who could easily finish outside the top 60 this season. He is old. I talked about this a lot last season, that the decline was coming. We saw that, and it seems to have continued on this season. So I would be valuing him not as a top 30 guy, not as a top 20 guy, but as a top 60 sort of player. That's the sort of range I'd be looking at. But I would expect the shooting percentages to come up for Paulie. On the Knicks.
Giggity.
Wrong button.
Percentages.
That's the one. Kristaps, another 30-point game, 38-7 with 4 triples and 3 blocks, 54% from the field, 26 shot attempts, a perfect 6 of 6 from the line. He was a perfect target in that middle of the second round, and he's killing it now. He has shown a tendency to wear down and get a little bit injured as the season goes on, but he's crushing it at the moment, really, really putting up big numbers. While Timmy Hardaway, again, I think he took 1 shot in the first half. He ended up with 13-4-3, 3 threes and 3 steals, another strong performance. That's 2 in a row from Tim after a really piss-poor start to the season. But the 3 assists, he had, I think, 8 in yesterday's game, another 3 steals here. Those numbers were always going to come up, and here they are. And even in this game, he didn't shoot that well, but the other numbers are fine. He has to be owned as well. Jarrett Jack's another interesting one. 32 minutes for Jack, 6 points, 3 rebounds, 10 assists, including 9 in the first half. And he was very similar to that in the game against the Cavs. Big numbers in the first half, nothing in the second. He had 2 steals. Now, when Joakim Noah comes back, which I think is in about 4 or 5 games, or maybe 5 games time, the Knicks have to cut someone or they have to trade someone because they have 16 contracts on the books at the moment, and one of those has to go. Jarrett Jack is the only non-guarantee on the roster. They could decide to eat all of Ramon Sessions' $2.3 million deal, which is fully guaranteed, and keep Jack around. But regardless, at some point, Jack's value is going to be limited because Frank Ntilikina is going to take that starting job. So whether Jack goes when Noah comes back or they cut Sessions, by the time you get to Christmas, I think Frank's going to be starting anyway, and Jack's going to be playing a 21, 22-minute role. So while he's really good now, and if you've got a streaming spot, the assists are super, super nice from Jarrett Jack. But just be aware that in 2 weeks, in 6 weeks, the value could be literally 0, or it could be reduced significantly. So watch who you drop in that scenario. Enes Kanter had 12 and 9, but the big story with the centers was Koch. Kyle O'Quinn, 21 minutes, 15 and 12, and 5 blocks with an assist. I've talked about this. So he went to the line 10 times and hit 9 of them, which is crazy. I've talked about this so many times with this guy. If the minutes are there, he is bananas. He is a per-minute monster. He is a per-minute fantasy machine, but we just can never be confident with the minutes, especially with Jeff Hornacek and especially with Joakim Noah looking to or coming back soon. We don't know what's going to happen there. If you own Willy Hernan-Gomez, he played 3 minutes. I don't think you can hold him. It's going to get worse. Koch is playing well. As for O'Quinn, he's more of a let's hope it happens today and stream him sort of guy, a 14-team league player. But when the minutes are there, the production is there for him. Courtney Lee had a solid game, but he's more of a 14-team league guy, while Frank only played 16 minutes, 5-2-1 with 2 steals. I don't think he's a real 12-team league guy. May not be at all this season, but I do think that starting job is coming for him at some point in December. The San Antonio Spurs and the Celtics, a big loss for the Spurs in this one. I talked about Bryn Forbes a little bit earlier. He played 24 minutes and had 8 points with 2 triples, but don't read too much into that. Everyone else had their minutes pretty much limited. Aldridge only 26, Kyle Anderson 24, Dan Green stunk. DeJounte Murray actually got more playing time, 29 minutes, 10, 5, and 4 with 2 steals, and I don't believe that he is a must-own guy, while Pau Gasol did what he needed to do in his limited minutes, 11, 8, and 4 against that Boston front line, 25 minutes for Pau. I did say that the 30 minutes for Pau in the last game was probably going to be close to a season high, but he still does have some of that value. Not much else to talk about really with the Spurs. On the Celtics, Kyrie's probably first big game for this team, 24 points on 16 shots. He had 6 dimes, 3 steals and a block, a really solid game there. While Al Horford, another big rebounding game after he was criticised. And I hate the criticism of big guys for rebounding. In the Celtics case, I understand it because they were a really poor rebounding team, but especially guys like Brook Lopez or Robin Lopez. How can you be 7 foot and not grab more than 4 rebounds? You got to look more at team rebounding and what they do for their other guys to come in. Now, this is good from Horford. Really strong on the boards here, and he puts up those other numbers. He's a really sexy fantasy guy that goes under the radar a bit. Jaylen Brown, always awesome to see him hit all of his free throws because that's been a real drag on his value. 5 of 5 for 18 points, 4 rebounds and a steal. Has to be owned, but he's not as highly valuable as what others may think. Jason Tatum, 7 and 11 with 2 threes and three blocks as well. I think he's a lock for the top 100 this season, Tatum. I don't think Marcus Morris's return is going to do too much there. Terry Rozier, the stat line looks good, 12 points, 4 boards and 2 steals, but 18 minutes, that's the concern, how low the minutes are for Rozier, and holding him in at 12, I think it's going to be pretty tough work. Marcus Smart, the shots was terrible as usual, but added 3 boards, 7 assists and a steal, and I would be owning him. I'd definitely be owning him over a guy like Rozier. The Minnesota Timberwolves and the Miami Heat, this game went to overtime. The Timberwolves get the victory. Karl Anthony Towns, 20 and 12 with 3 blocks, strong. Andrew Wiggins, 22 and 7, a 111, but geez, that shooting percentage, 30% on 23 shots. I don't understand why he is taking so many shots and Jimmy Butler's taking just 13. Now, Butler's shooting wasn't awesome himself, 39%, but he had 16, 5, and 3 with 3 steals. I know that Jimmy Butler owners are panicking. I can assure you of that. Go and throw a buy low. Throw a guy that's a top 50 player at him and see if you can get him. Throw Evan Fournier at him, who is like the 12th best player so far this season. Butler owners are panicking. They're thinking that Butler's just going to get completely frozen out in this offense, but I think he'll figure it out. He might not be the same guy he was in Chicago, and we didn't really think he'd be exactly the same guy, but I think he'll figure it out, and I think you might be able to get a decent steal in getting him. Gorgie Jeng, I know I said it was the last time I'm going to mention him. I'll do it again. Please drop him. 6 and 3 in 14 minutes, while Taj had 7 and 4. Taj is more of a deeper league guy, but the important stat there for Gibson is 31 minutes. Onto the Heat, Dion Waiters was fantastic. 33 points, 5 rebounds, 4 assists, and 3 steals. The most important number there is 28 shots and 50%. Big volume and big percentage as well, which really does help his fantasy value. I don't love him long term, especially with the ankles, but he should be owned everywhere. Kelly Olynyk, 23 and 6 in 29 minutes. We love this from Olynyk, but when Hassan Whiteside returns, who knows what's going to happen. He can have some value, but his upside is pretty limited. It wasn't a great night for Jim Johnson. He doesn't get the music today because of that. 24 minutes for Jim, 2 and 7 with a steal and a block, but you still want to hold on there. While Bam Adebayo in his first game over 30 minutes had a 13 and 13 double-double. No other numbers there, and some pretty poor free throw shooting, but nice stuff from Bam. He might be completely out of the rotation when Whiteside comes back because they were running just 3 bigs, Olynyk, Johnson, and Whiteside in that first game. But Adebayo has looked okay. Joshie Richardson, the shot wasn't there, 5 points on 10 shots, but still added 2 steals, still added 2 blocks, and they're the numbers that you do want out of him. I'm still holding on there, clearly, while Tyler Johnson had 12 points in 23 minutes, and the Iron Shoulder had 18, 6, and 5. I read someone today that they were panicking about Goran Dragic's numbers. I think you're fine. I think he's all right. I don't think you need to be too worried about the Iron Shoulder. Philadelphia gets a semblance of revenge over Houston after that Eric Gordon buzzer beater last week. They travel to Houston and get the victory. Joel Embiid played only 25 minutes, but that was due to foul trouble, not some injury restriction. 22, 9, and 5 with 2 steals and a block. he's still ridiculous. TJ McConnell only saw 26 minutes, but his value is going to be pretty strong while Markel Fultz is out. 11, 3 and 5, a steal, 2 blocks and 3 triples. Own him. Bob Cove, the shot didn't fall, but how many times have we talked about it? It's not about scoring for him. He hit a 3, but he had 8 boards, 2 assists, 4 steals and a block. That's why I was pretty confident on his value this season. A weird double-double from Amir Johnson. Don't count on too many of those. 12 and 10. That brings me to Rashawn Holmes. Many people, do we go and stash Rashawn Holmes now? And I couldn't think of a, not a worse stash, but I don't understand it. So we know what Embiid's doing. He's playing 29 minutes, and I'm telling you now, by December, he's playing 32 minutes a night. I am real confident of that. So you're talking about 16 minutes per game there that have to be split between Holmes and Johnson. Now, do they take Amir Johnson completely out of the rotation? I'm not sure. They might, but I don't think it's all that likely. And then you're holding on to Holmes in the hope that Embiid goes down. And maybe it happens, but I just think it's just not a high, it's not a high upside sort of move. Well, that's not true. It is a high upside move. It's a low probability move. He's not providing much value. It's not like he's coming in and going, right, Embiid's playing 29, Holmes is definitely then playing 19 minutes every night, because I don't have that confidence. It might happen, but I don't think Amir Johnson's just going to sit down every game. I think you're going to have some issues there. Dario Saric started with JJ Redick out, 31 minutes, 14 and 6. Don't worry about him in a standard league. While Benny Simmons, another big night. The free throws were horrendous, but 24, 7 and 9. And he was hitting jump shots. And I've mentioned this on this podcast over the last 2 years. He can hit jump shots. I know people didn't believe it, but he can hit them. And he's showing it now. 4 of 9 from the free throw line was pretty disgusting, and that's a big, big hurt in that category. But he has been awesome so far this season. Jim Harden, 29, 4 and 7 with 4 steals, just doing what he does. Eric Gordon was back 25 with 5 triples. Still has a level of sell-high ability if you can pull that off. Clint Capella, 12 and 15. He's good. Ryan Anderson, big minutes for Rhino. 35 minutes. He's getting 30 minutes pretty much every game, at least 30 minutes. But it's still, he's not an overwhelmingly awesome fantasy guy. He can hit some threes. He can stream for points. But that's really about it. I don't like him as a must-own guy. Trevor Ariza is getting pretty close to not being that either, in my opinion. I know everyone will cite, he's a slow starter. He always fires up at the end of the season. Last season, he was worse at the end of the season, so he actually went the other way. And given the fact that he's 33 years of age, the fact that you're declining over a season and then that same form continues the next year, it has me a little bit worried about what he is going to do. Put that in that, I'm trying to think what category to put it into. Maybe the Paul Millsap category. I am definitely worried about Trevor Ariza. 25% shooting, that won't stick. Look, his shooting will increase, but I don't believe that he's becoming this top 40, top 50 guy again, which we've seen from him for a couple of years. I just don't see it with Trev Ariza. So if you've got him and someone wants to buy real low, or someone tries to buy low and they offer you a top 75 guy, I would take it, because I'm not all that confident that Ariza gets back to that. He could, but I'm not all that confident that he does. The Magic and the Pelicans, another big win for the Magic. Evan Fournier, apparently the best shooter in the NBA. 20 points, 4 triples, 3 rebounds, and 4 assists. He has been ludicrous so far this season. He is the 13th ranked player, and in large part because he's shooting 56% from 3 and 55% from the field, averaging 22 points and 4 assists per game. Now, the assists, I think, could be real. They are running more stuff through him. His offensive confidence is huge, but he's not going to continue to shoot at 55% from 3 or 55% from the field. It's just not going to happen. So if you can get a sell-high moment going, do it. Similarly, John Simmons was massive, 29 minutes, 20 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, but 58% from the field. And for as much as we like these performances, he's shooting 53% from the field this season and 50% from 3. Those numbers will not stick. He's doing it in 26 minutes a game, 0.7 steals, 2 assists. Nothing else is really sexy, but the high volume scoring at high percentage, it is bound to come down. And everyone's like, he's going to take over from Terrence Ross. He's going to take over from Terrence Ross. Pretty much every game, Ross is still playing more minutes. Now, Simmons is outplaying him, I'll grant you that. But I think he fits better in the second unit. I don't think having him in that starting lineup necessarily works as well. Now, he can be owned, but just be... And this is something especially, it's not a trick, because I don't think it's that secret. But at the start of the season, if players are playing out of their brain, look at their percentages. That's the biggest indicator. If someone's going at 55% from the field and 50% from 3, it's not going to stick. If someone's sucking, Tim Hardaway, and they're shooting 22% from the field, Bob Cove last season, it's not going to stick. So they're a great way of targeting your buy low guys or sell high guys. If they're, and when you're shooting at this high level, it inflates your points, it inflates your threes as well, it inflates your confidence. Maybe your minutes come up and all that stuff. And now people can improve. They can go from 43% shooters to 46% shooters or 47% shooters. But wing players don't shoot 58% from the field. They don't shoot 54% from the field. They don't. Unless their name's Giannis or LeBron, they don't. And Evan Fournier or John Simmons' name is neither LeBron nor is it Giannis. So those numbers are going to come down. Players also don't shoot 20% from the field, so those numbers are due to come up. So when you're seeing these crazy numbers, look to the percentages. They do give early season numbers a real inflation or a deflation in the ranks, and they can really have a big impact in those early season trades. Mo Spates got extra playing time with Aaron Gordon in foul trouble. Azza had really early fouls, ended with only 18 minutes. So Spates played 22. He had 18 and 5 with 6 triples. He was bombing away. Nothing much to see there. But they did limit Bismack Biyombo's minutes down to 8 because I'll tell you now, Biyombo's shit. He's not a good player. Maybe Spates can carve into some playing time there, but don't expect that sort of outburst. Az was still good, 17 and 7 in 18 minutes, while Vooch had 20 and 8. He's another guy that's going at really high efficiency, like 40% from 3 on 5 attempts per game. Those numbers, especially the percentage, will come down. It's not in the same level as Fournier, but it will come down. DJ Augustine, again, only 23 minutes, 6 points, 4 assists and 3 steals. That's 3 in a row where he hasn't cracked 25 minutes, while Shelvin Mack played 20 and had 4 assists. Not much more to see there. We've seen those point guards having their minutes reduced. Lord Alfred Payton will come back in and he'll take that job, no worries. So if you were panicking, don't. The Pelicans, Tone Davis, 39 and 10, 3 blocks. He's really, really good. Simple as that. Boogie had some foul troubles, 12, 12 and 7 with 2 threes and 3 steals. Still a really top performance. I think he's the 4th ranked player now in fantasy. Your number 1 ranked player, by the way, in his one game is Miles Turner. He is number 1 so far. Drew, 11, 4 and 8. That's solid. But the rest of the team, just shitful. 8, 4 and 3 for Etuan Moore in 31 minutes with 3 steals. More of a 14-team league guy. And Dante Cunningham, Tone Allen, Jameer Nelson had 6 assists, but not really a high priority hold in a 12-teamer. Also, for those of you who asked me if you should add Josh Smith, he had a 3 trillion here. No, you clearly don't, and I think that's being shown why here. Charlotte and Memphis. A big win for the Hornets here. Kemba was great, 27 with 6 assists. Cody Zeller was really good with Dwight Howard struggling, 11 and 8 with 3 blocks for Zeller. You know how much I like him and think he's a really key part to this team, but in 19 minutes, it's just not going to mean anything. Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, the minutes are getting back up there. He'll be back to 30, I reckon, in the next game. 27 minutes, 10 and 6. Hasn't missed a shot in his last 2 games. He was 5 of 5 here, had a steal and a block. I think he's a low upside, solid value 12-team league guy. Marvin Williams, 9 and 8 in 25 minutes. Frank Kaminsky was back. That's some decent production. The minutes are still a worry. I don't think he is a must-own 12-team league guy. Jeremy Lamb is 17 and 8, and it's going to be really interesting to see what Steve Clifford does when Nick Batum comes back. Frank was back 9 and 6 in 23 minutes. He had that illness. We weren't sure if he was going to play. If you do own Kaminsky, I would hold just for one more game, but with everyone back, with Zeller back, if he gets like 23, 24 a night in the next game, he can go. The Baconator, Dwayne Bacon, 20 minutes still, and Trevion Graham played 15 minutes. Both of those guys will lose playing time when Carter Williams and Batum returns. On to Memphis. Tyreek Evans. Is it happening? Yeah, I reckon it is. 30 minutes for Tyreek, 19 and 10, 3 assists and 2 triples. He's ownable in 12-teamers. He was a real favourite of mine as a late pick in drafts because that second unit needed someone to do this, and he's doing it. I really like him here. Marcus Gasol, 10 and 7 with 2 threes, 2 steals and 3 blocks, while Chandler Parsons continues to look more spry. 19 minutes, 9 and 5 with 2 assists. He's cutting into Jim Ennis's playing time. And he is not an ad in 12s. He's probably not an ad in 14-team leagues, but it is encouraging. Mike Conley cannot hit a shot at the moment. 4 of 18 for 16, 2 and 6. The field goal percentage is brutal. Buy low because someone will be pissed. Now, the minutes are not going anywhere. The shot attempts are fine. The other numbers are all right. But he is struggling a lot with that shot. So go and see if you can get him at a cheap price. Well, Dylan Brooks had probably his best game since the opener. 11 and 8 in 31 minutes. But of course, JaMychal Green, Ben McLemore and Wayne Selden are all out. And that is definitely going to impact Andy Harrison's playing time. Not Andy Harrison. Well, it is going to impact Andy Harrison, but I was talking about Dylan Brooks. Dallas and Utah, a smashing here by the Jazz. Dennis Smith Jr. only 17 minutes, 2 and 3, 1 of 7 from the field. He's been brutal, especially with his percentages. He's shooting 45% from the free throw line. He was a 70% shooter in college, so expect that to come up. Rookie point guards in general, you always expect really bad field goal percentage. We've seen that with Markelle Fultz. We've seen it with Lonzo Ball. De'Aaron Fox has actually been not too bad in that area. Smith is absolutely worth holding in my opinion. The percentages have been really, really tough to swallow, but they will get better. But he's still averaging a decent amount of assists, some okay points. He will be much better than this. He's also shooting like 21% from 3, and that's a number that is bound to come up. With him struggling, JJ Barea was awesome, 17, 2 and 1 in 26 minutes, while Yogi Ferrell only played 21. So interestingly, in a game where Smith only played 17, Ferrell still only got 21 minutes. He is not really a 12-team league guy anymore. Wes Matthews, not too much there, while Dirk had a nice 18 and 5 game. Everyone wants to know about Nerlens Noel, though. 22 minutes, 6 and 4 with a block. The minutes just aren't going to come for it. It's just not going to happen unless Dirk gets injured. Even in this one, Dwight Powell played more than him, 7 and 10 for Powell. Carlisle hates his attitude. I think there's a definite case of the shit blokes going on with Nerlens Noel. I really like Noel as a player. I think he can be a really impactful guy, but if his head's not on right, if he's not giving effort, and if he's a real smartass, Carlisle's not going to take that shit. He's just not going to take it. And Noel's not going to get those minutes. He's got no future in Dallas whatsoever. I think at this point, you have to just think, well, this is just it for Nerlens. 20 minutes a night, 21 minutes a night, limited production, low upside, maybe if Dirk goes down. But I could see Carlisle just giving him the double bird and go, well, sorry, Dwight Powell's going to start now. I can see that happening. So if there's someone out there you want to grab, I think you have to start considering Nerlens droppable. I probably wouldn't do it myself. I'd give it another week, but my confidence level is real low. Like it's 10% that things change, maybe even less. Seth Curry, about a week away, hopefully, from returning, so that'll be good news for his owners. I like Seth. I don't think he's a must own, or he hasn't been a must hold without IR. Yeah, when we're talking about must holds without IR, we're talking about guys who are top 50, top 60, not guys who might be a top 100 player. I think that just does you more damage than anything. On to the Jazz, Rudy Gobert. This is why you drafted Rudy. Massive night from Gobert. 17 and 12, but 6 assists, real rare for that. 2 steals and 6 blocks, 80% from the field. Sensational. Ravishing Rick Rubio. Yeah, he's good. He's pretty good. 20 points, 4 triples, 6 assists, and 4 steals. I can't remember what I had him projected at, like averaging 18 points per game. He is crushing it. Offensively, he has really taken a step up. He is so good, and I just love seeing him succeed. Rocket Rodney Hood, 25 points with 5 triples. That's another 20-point outing for Rocket. You just don't find 20-point guys on the waiver wire, so go and add him. He is available in some leagues. Well, Jinglin' Joe Ingles wasn't the best offensive night for Joe, just 3 points. But it's not just about the points category. And I know I do stress that points are a hard category to find, but just because Joe scored 3 points doesn't make his night a complete disaster. You didn't draft Joe Ingles for his points. You drafted him because he's hitting threes at 50% this season. Now that obviously dropped here. He's a top 50 guy so far this year, by the way, Joe. 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 3 steals. And that is now 3 steals in 3 consecutive games. It is 10 combined assists in the last 2 games. And he's had 6 rebounds in the last 3 games as well. That is sensational value. So don't look at this. And I've seen things, Ingles was bad. He's really disappointing at the moment. Yeah, you just hang on to him. Like that's bullshit. He's been good. It's not just about him scoring 3 points. His last 2 games, he was at 13 and 12 points, I think, from memory, in those games. So the scoring has been okay. It was bad here, but those other numbers are beautiful. So he has to be owned. The minutes aren't going anywhere. Don Mitchell, 17 minutes, no point in a 12-teamer. Well, Derek Favors, 10 and 4 in 26 minutes. If you're in a 10-team league, I don't know about holding on to Derek. I probably still would in a 12-teamer, but Favors in a 10-teamer, the upside just doesn't appear there for him at the moment. The Toronto Raptors and the Portland Trailblazers. Kyle Lowry, I think the buy low window's slammed shut there. 19, 10, and 6. Yeah, the shooting's coming back. Looks more aggressive. While DeMar had 25, 3, and 4. 50% on 20 shots is really good for DeRozan as well. Siakam, not quite as successful as some of his other starts, but the defensive numbers were good. 2 steals and a block with 6 points and 5 boards. He would be worth maybe a 14-team ad if Serge happens to be out, which I believe he will be. Norm Powell, the minutes, man. 22 minutes for Powell, 8 and 3 with 2 blocks and 2 triples. Nice, but 14-team league guy. Delon Wright, 7, 5, and 2 with 2 steals. He's an assist and steals sort of streaming guy. And the reason that these guys and CJ Miles, who played only 18 minutes, are being limited is because OG Anunoby is good. He's really good. Now, it doesn't necessarily show up in the box score just yet, but 22 minutes, 4 and 3 with 2 steals. I'm telling you now, in the next 3 years, he's going to be a top 100, probably a top 75 fantasy guy. I love his dynasty potential. There's some real late guys that have got good dynasty potential. He's one of them. Jordan Bell is obviously another one. Joshy Hart for the Lakers is another guy who's a late pick. We're talking after pick 20, who have got significant dynasty and fantasy upside. So OG is really cutting into these guys' playing time, and it's going to impact Norm, I feel like, for the whole season. So just keep an eye on that and keep an eye on OG as we move forward. On to the Blazers. Dame Lillard had 36 points, not much else. The 2 steals are nice. The 52% from the field is nice. But good night from Lillard, while CJ had 16, 3 and 2. Nobody else scored in double figures. Yusuf Nurkic, one of my massive buy low targets at the moment. He's really struggling. Now, he was a risky pick this year for either form or for injury, or the fact that he's just a little bit of a bitch. And hasn't worked out for him so far this season. I do think it will turn around, so I would target him. Just things aren't happening for him. It will be better. I'm fairly confident. Al-Farouq Aminu, who was a top 50 guy before today, 4 and 7 in 35 minutes. Noel Vonleh is likely back for the next game. So that could really impact Aminu, and could also impact Ed Davis, who's putting up some good numbers in limited minutes, 7 and 8 for Davis in 22 minutes. So Vonleh targeting the next game. Both of those guys could lose some minutes, and I think, I think Caleb Swanigan is out of the rotation when Vonleh returns. And it'll be interesting to see what Terry Stotts does with the starting lineup, whether Vonleh goes back in. And it will probably render Davis and Vonleh not useful for 12 or 14 team leagues, and it might actually take Aminu out of that calculation as well. I believe he's shooting 50% from 3 before this game. If he missed all 5 of his threes in this one, so that dropped him right down. Mo Harkless, 4 and 4. I don't think that he's a standard league guy. I know many people will disagree. On to the Warriors. What can I tell you about the Warriors? Steph was ridiculous. 31, 5 and 6 with 7 triples. Didn't need to play in the fourth quarter. Durant, 19, 7 and 4. Draymond, 16, 9 and 6. And Clay had 15, 5 and 6. Like, cool. Like, what else can I say? This team had 37 assists. That's a lot of assists. Jordan Bell, 8, 2 and 2. A steal, a crazy putback dunk. The Bulls are a bunch of knobs. I can't believe they sold him off. He is a really good dynasty target, but there's just nothing on this Warriors team really for 12s or even 14 team leagues outside of those 4 guys. Everyone else seems to be rotated apart from Shawnee Livingston and Andre Iguodala. Maybe Iggy is a 14 team league guy, but no one else really does it. A lot of people have been really down on the Rooster, Danilo Gallinari, to start this season, but the minutes are there, the shots are there, they just haven't fallen. It goes back to my mantra of check the field goal percentage. The Rooster had 19, 2 and 4 in this one, 53%. He's fine. Really good buy low target, maybe not possible now. Pat Beverly, 14, 2 and 4 was strong there. While Lou Williams back over 20 minutes after 2 games under 20, 17 points, got to the line 11 times. I think he's okay. I don't think he's a high upside guy, but he is fine to own, and his ability to influence that free throw percentage category can be really, really useful. Blakey Griffin, not his best game, 16, 3 and 4, while DeAndre had 10 and 11. But all these guys played limited minutes apart from the Rooster. Austin Rivers hurt his finger again, but he was fine. 5, 2 and 3 with 2 steals. Not a must-own 12-team league guy, but can have some value there. Another guy I really like as a late pick is Jawan Evans, and he showed a little bit here late. 6 points in 7 minutes. It's a real deep dynasty sort of situation, but he's one to just keep an eye on it, and you take that flyer on a guy and see if it ends up panning out. But he's one of those guys that I do find interesting from a dynasty point of view. That covers all of Monday's action. I'm going to take a quick break. I'm going to play one of these Cimarron songs. Which one will I play today? I think I'm going to play Our Sky, and then I'll be back to talk DFS.
In the air, beyond the mountains reach, I sail on the clouds in my kingdom. You will play, I saw you that day, my delight, I instantly loved you. The heights are not steep enough, the gulf not deep enough to hold misted hands from holding on to you. To give you the sky, you know I would die, but you wanted the town, boy, you wanted the earth.
Alright guys, we're back. Let's talk perfect DFS lineups from Monday. On FanDuel, Jeff Teague had 59.5.
My name is Jeff.
Steph at 54, Dion Waiters 49, and Tyreek at 35.5. What a shooting guard pairing that is, Dion and Tyreek. At small forward, John Simmons 33.4 and Dylan Brooksy at 21.1. Porzingis at 53.5, Tone Davis at 61 and Bebe at 49.8. There was so many strong big man performances on Monday. That total was 416.7 and that cost 59,800. On DraftKings, Steph had 55.25, Waiters had 49.25, Tyreek at 38.5, Porzingis at 55.25, Gobert at 57, Teague at 58.75, Cock had 41.5 and Bebe had 44.75 for a total of 400.25 and that cost $49,800. There's 4 games on Tuesday, so that generally means a lower volume in DFS, but I'm not sure with this Tuesday. I think there is still some value, so it's not an absolute, just go real low sort of situation. I think Thursday, when we've got 2 games, that is a no-play sort of day in my opinion. But on this slate, it's not too bad. The first game we're going to look at is Sacramento and Indiana, and that's good because the questionable players are mainly in this one. We don't know if Domantas Sabonis is going to play. We know Miles Turner is out, so if Sabonis is out, then who do we unleash? Is it your Al Jeffersons? Is it TJ Leaf? What does the Deuce Young do? Does Ike Anabogu come in? There are some real interesting situations there for Indiana. For the Kings, Zebo is questionable. Now, he rested. Rested. But he now has a sore left foot, so if he is out, Skal Labissiere becomes a really good option. Georgie Hill should be back after seeing that last game, but he's been playing less than De'Aaron Fox anyway, so I wouldn't be really touching too much of George Hill. The Pacers are 5.5-point favourites, and the total is 210 points, and this is a day where we've got really high totals as well. 210 is the second lowest total of the day. Let's talk point guards here. Daz Collison, 6,500. I think that's fairly strong. Getting a 30 out of Daz should feel pretty good in this matchup against the Kings. I really do like him there. Corey Joseph at 3,800. I think you can leave that alone. I'm not too interested. Well, Georgie Hill at 44. That's a really cheap price for George. He is still a good player, but he just appears disinterested. That's why I would throw him as a GPP option. His ownership will be real low. The Pacers have been going pretty fast, and Hill could easily drop a 30. And that's really good value at that sort of price. As for De'Aaron Fox, he's at 5,300. Shit the bed a little bit in his start the other day. 5,300 for him is not bad. He's been putting up some pretty good numbers there, but I don't feel all that confident about him in cash, and I'm not sure his tournament upside's right there. Vic Oladipo, 7,900. Yeah, I'm all right with that. I think it's cash. I think it's GPP. I do really like Oladipo there. Garrett Temple at 3,600. Bud Hield at 4,000. Not really. That's a good. The price is getting good for Bud, but his minutes just aren't really interesting. While Bogdanovic is at 4,500. I like Bogdan there. I think that is definitely worth a look in a GPP. And you know what? He's played 26, 26, and 24 in a blowout in the past 3 at 4,500. When you can make an argument he's their best player at the moment. I don't even hate it for cash for Bogdan. At small forward, we've got Bojan Bogdanovic at 4,100. Had a strong game in the last one. That probably means he's going to do nothing in this one. He is always a tournament guy, while Lance Stevenson, Justin Jackson, and Vince Carter shouldn't really merit any consideration. The Deuce Young at 5,800. His upside is really through the roof here, especially if Sabonis is out. 5,800 for Thad. He hasn't been really putting up that level of production, but against this Kings frontcourt, I really think he can do some damage. TJ Leafs at 3,500. The minutes have been okay. The production's been, but if Sabonis is out, he's going to have to play. And we're going to have to see him play a little bit at center, get those minutes, 20, 22 minutes, and that could be really useful at that sort of price. As for Zebo at 45, maybe in a GPP, but I don't feel good about it. Other power forwards, Skal at 4,900. Well, we're going to hear if Randolph is out before the game starts, so Labissiere would have some interest there. I think he could really do some damage against the shorter Thad Young, and Miles Turner's not obviously there to create any problems, so Labissiere would be good. I wouldn't like to use him if Randolph is playing, though. At centre, Will Cauley-Stein, 5,300. I feel better about him if Randolph is out as well. His minutes have been a little bit all over the place, but 5,300 is a decent price, and I don't hate that. While Sabonis at 6,000. Love using Sabonis at 6,000 if he's ready to play. Now, there's been lots of talk, especially from Nate McMillan, saying that Sabonis He wants to play him and Miles Turner together as much as possible. So I checked their first game, how much they played together. They played 5 minutes together in that first game. So they did play together, so he did play as that backup power forward. So I can see Sabonis getting the 14 minutes as the backup center, and then Thad playing maybe 31 minutes, and then you get 12 minutes or so for him as the backup power forward, and then 10 minutes in the game for TJ Leaf. And that will give Sabonis 25 to 26 minutes a game, and I think that's a realistic-ish expectation for him, and that makes him a standard league target for you season-long players. As for this, I really like it if he is going to play here. Al Jefferson would get a boost at 4,400 if Sabonis is out. That would be the situation I'd look at him. And Bogu, I don't know. He could come out and have 5 blocks, which at minimum salary could really work if Sabonis is out. But of course, we're talking about just a GPP only type of situation for EK. DraftKings, some value. I like Thad at 5,200 a lot. TJ Leaf, Corey Joseph, and Al Jefferson are all tournament guys. Daz Collison is strong for both. So is Sabonis, and Scal at 46. I think Scal actually has some cash value even if Zebo plays at this price. Boyan and Georgie Hill, GPP guys. In fact, George Hill at 4,300. That's hard to go past for cash. Oladipo strong for both, and Bogdan at 43 is also strong for both. I'm not as big onto Willie Cauley-Stein on DraftKings as I am on FanDuel. He's at 5,400 here in this one. Now, I did put out a poll today to see what DFS site people prefer playing on. It was DraftKings, FanDuel, Fantasy Draft, and Yahoo, and obviously the two major ones were FanDuel and DraftKings. And DraftKings and FanDuel, I think I should check the poll again now, but they were basically equal. The reason why I do most of my chatter about FanDuel and let's go through DraftKings at the end is because FanDuel is using the standardized scoring. So the people that play in seasonal point leagues, they can also apply those FanDuel scoring numbers that I talk about, because it goes through to official NBA fantasy, it goes to Yahoo seasonal fantasy points leagues, it goes to Yahoo DFS point scoring as well. It goes through to ESPN points leagues. It goes through to all that stuff. So the point scoring stays the same. DraftKings has got their own separate point scoring system. So that's why it's more use me talking about it from a FanDuel perspective, because it does relate through to Yahoo DFS, Yahoo seasonal, ESPN seasonal, NBA fantasy seasonal, because of that locked-in standardized scoring. That's why I do go through most of it with FanDuel. If there was an overwhelming percentage of 70% people said they do DraftKings, I would have focused more on DraftKings or would have alternated it. But given they're even, I think the applicability of the FanDuel scoring goes through to more other situations, and that makes it a little bit more useful. But I'm not going to be discounting all you DraftKings users, obviously going through and highlighting some of the major differences there, as I just did. The next game we'll take a look at is the Phoenix Suns and the Brooklyn Nets. This is a massive over-under. The Nets are favored by 4, but the total is 230, by far the largest of the day. The biggest situation we need to monitor is the status of Damari Carroll, because if he is out, not only does that increase the blue swimmer Alan Crabb's minutes, it boosts guys like Tim Mozgov, and it also boosts Spencer Dinwiddie, because as we've seen in that game, the last one, where Crabbe had to push to the 3 more, that meant more minutes at the 2, and Dinwiddie took some of those minutes next to D'Angelo Russell. So he's going to have that ability to push to 28-29 if Damari Carroll is out. If Carroll is in, Dinwiddie's probably more a 21-22 minute a game guy rather than being a 27 to 28 minute a game guy. So that is something that we do need to pay some attention to. Look, maybe Dinwiddie gets 25 and they limit LeVert, or they reduce D'Angelo's minutes. But I think that the risk factor with Spencer in this game is the status of Damari Carroll. In saying that, Dinwiddie's been great. He had 42 in the last game. He's averaging 34 across his last 3 games. He's at 5,300. If Carroll is out, I'm all about that for Dinwiddie. If Carroll is in, I'd probably fade it, to be honest, because I think his ownership's going to be pretty high. Mike James at 4,500. I don't like that. I don't really like Tyler Ulis all that much either. They've been splitting minutes. Now, Ulis has been putting up okay numbers, but he's at 4,700. That's a big price rise. He put up 30 in the last game with a 25-point average, and at 4,700 with the uncertainty, I'm just not really feeling that for Ulis. At shooting guard, D'Angelo Russell at $7,000. The minutes haven't been great lately, but this is an absolutely supreme matchup for Russell. So in a tournament, I love that, because he could very comfortably drop a 50. In cash, it's a little bit hard to rely upon him. As for Karis LeVert at 5,200, people are going to score big, so any of these guys really become a GPP type option. So I do like LeVert as that sort of guy here. Devin Booker at 7,200. I feel strongly about Booker as a cash guy, and I think he's got tournament upside as well. The sexy boy, Shawnee Kilpatrick. He's at 3,300, and he has had some big games against Phoenix. Hey, at 3,300, he could very easily get to 20, especially if Damari Carroll is out. I don't really have massively high hopes for Sean, but in a GPP, on a slate with 4 games, one guy can really differentiate your lineup from others. At small forward, TJ Warren's at 51. The price keeps coming down. The production's okay. I don't mind him for cash just to get that 25, but I don't really think his upside's all that high. While the blue swimmer at 4,500 is a tournament-only guy. He has struggled, averaging just 14 across the last 3 games. Damari's at 5,400. Had been strong until his last outing. I like Damari if he happens to play here, while Joshy Jackson at 43 just isn't for me. At power forward, I like Rondé Hollis-Jefferson a lot, 5,900. He dropped 28 in the last one. I think a 30 is definitely in play for Rondé here. Trev Booker at 4,300. I might be interested if Carroll is out, otherwise I won't be. The Phoenix power forwards, are they going to play the better player in Dragan Bender, or will they go back to Marquise Chris? It is a tough one. 4,700 for Chris, 3,400 for Bender, who had 23 points in that last one. I would definitely use Bender in a tournament because the minutes were higher for him. He looked solid. He's improving every game. I would be okay with him in a tournament. As for Chris at 47, wouldn't be interested in him in cash, but as a tournament guy who could easily drop a 35 or 36, there is some upside there. There's tons of upside in this game. This is your ideal game stack. Jarrett Allen at 3,000, only averaging 9 points across his last 3. He did have a 21-pointer not too far away. Maybe if Carroll is out, again, that just pushes everyone up a position. So I think you could get some more minutes out of Allen there at 3,000. Tournament-only sort of guy. Tyson Chandler at 4,600. Centers have been getting up big numbers against the Nets. So 4,600, I feel okay about that with Tyson. I know he's old, I know he shouldn't be playing, but that doesn't stop Jay Triano. He played him 25 minutes in the last one due to foul trouble. Still had 19 points. Chandler could pull down 15 rebounds here and put up 30 points. So I think that he is in play, while Alex Len at 43 is more of a tournament sort of a player. Over on DraftKings, Rondé is still strong at 55. Tyson Chandler I do like at 41. Chris at 4,100. Marquise Chris, that is a really good price, and I'd even lean towards him in cash, but I'd love that for a tournament. I think Tim Mozgov at minimum salary is absolutely worth a look. Karis LeVert, 51. The Blue Swimmer at 41, love it for a tournament. Dinwiddie's at 51, strong. D'Angelo at 73, similar to what I said on FanDuel, but that's even higher price. But in this game, he could drop 50, so there is tournament upside there for D'Angelo, but I wouldn't want to touch it in cash. While Dragan Bender's at 34. It's okay for Dragan. I do prefer him on FanDuel. I'd throw him as a GPP guy. Well, Devin Booker's a cash player on DraftKings as well at 7,900 in my opinion. Let's move on to the next game. We have got the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Milwaukee Bucks. The Thunder are favored by 1.5, and the total is 213.5. No injury considerations for us. Greg Monroe is out, so that's the biggest one in Milwaukee. OKC, everything is fine to go. At point guard, I love Brogo here, 6,200. I think getting 60 for him in cash, not 60, getting 30 for him in cash is a really good bet, and I think you can go for higher. So I like Brogdon there. Russ is at 11,100. I think he's really strong in cash on this day, on this 4-game slate. You can obviously use him in tournaments, but I lean a little bit more towards him in cash. I think getting 50 from him shouldn't feel like too much of a stretch. You got Matt Dellavedova, Fatface Ray Felton as well. Felton had 34 in the last game in 20 minutes. That is an interesting score. 3,500. There is some tournament upside, but I'm not really going to be using him. Tone Snell at 3,500. Cool. No. Chrissy Middleton at 73 was a monster in the last game. I do like using Chris there, while Robertson is just a no across the board. At small forward, Giannis Antetokounmpo is at 12,600. That is really, really high. I think his ownership is going to be high in cash, so I wouldn't really consider him in tournaments. I don't think the upside is really there, but in cash, I'd be all about that. While Paulie George at 7,800. I feel okay about Paul George at 7,800, but I wouldn't be locking him into a cash lineup. Teletovic and Hustis, the other two small forwards, not much to see there. At power forward, Johnny Henson, for some reason, is listed as a power forward. He is up to 4,800. He had 39 points in the last game at 28 minutes. It's only going to be him and McCurr playing at center unless Jason Kidd goes to some Giannis at 5 lineups. So I think 26 to 28 minutes from Henson is a realistic expectation, and 25 points should be considered almost a floor value for him in a really good matchup for him. I like Henson here in both cash and in tournaments. Mallow is at 7,400. I think that Mallow can easily drop 35 here. I think he has a level of value. I'm not 100% confident in it, but I think there's something there. While Jeremy Grant's getting minutes in the 20s, he's getting fantasy points in the 20s, averaging 22 over the last 3. And at 4,200, that's okay. I just don't have a level of consistency there. At centre, McCurr, 3,700. Well, the minutes should push up. He had 18 points in 20 minutes in the last game. I like him for a tournament here because, again, it could be a 24-24 split between McCurr and Henson, and then his value would really go up. Steve Adams at 6,600 has been putting up some good numbers, but that salary is probably just a little bit too high, in my opinion. Over on DraftKings, Johnny Henson's at 41 there, like that. McCurr at 31, I like that. And Brogdon at 56 is strong. Chrissy Middleton at 69 is also a GPP and cash play, while Paulie George and Steve Adams, I think, have more appeal on DraftKings than what they do on FanDuel. Yanni and Russ, more cash guys. They're really, really high priced. I'd leave, if I'm going to take one of them in a tournament, it'd probably be Russ, just given the fact that he's $1,300 cheaper. Mallow at 71, I also think, is a pretty good bet over on DraftKings. Let's have a look at the last game of the night. It is the all-conquering Detroit Pistons taking on the LA Lakers. The Pistons are favoured by 4, and the total is the lowest of the day, and that is 209 points. At point guard, Lonzo Ball is at 7,200. I don't have any interest in Lonzo at 7,200. Ish Smith at 3,700. I have very little interest in that as well. Reggie Jackson at 6'3", though. I'm all for it. I think a 30-point floor is a reasonable expectation for Jackson. All for using him at that $6,300 salary. Langston Galloway, also a point guard, but also not going to be used. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, $5,000. He's up and down. He's a tournament-only sort of guy. Do not use him in cash. While Avery Bradley in cash is fine at $5,700. I think that's really good. Josh Hart at 32. Jordy Clarkson at 39. I'm all about Jordy Clarkson at 39. You've heard my concerns with him for seasonal leagues, but at 3,900, I feel okay about using Clarko there. At small forward, Stan Johnson, the production's up, the minutes are up. He's averaging 25.5 over the last 3, and he's at 4,500. If you can get me 25 points, I'm happy with that. And the minutes are going to be there. I think that with some of the turnovers that will be coming the way from the Lakers, I think that Stan can get 3-4 steals perhaps. That's an upside sort of situation, and that's going to work in his favour. Brando Ingram, 56. I feel okay about Brando as a cash play, actually. I don't feel a level of discomfort there. At power forward, Toby Harris, 64. Yeah, that's okay for cash. There is also some tournament upside there for him. Julius Randle at 4,800. I don't even want to use it in a tournament. I can't trust him. I can't trust Nance. I can't trust Kuzma. Actually, more importantly, I can't trust Luke Walton, so I just don't know how that's all going to go down. So using any of those guys, and they're all at very similar prices, 4,800 for Nance and Randle and 49 for Kuzma. Future MVP, Kyle Kuzma, sorry. I just don't see how you can trust any of those guys in cash, and even their upside is a little bit limited for GPPs. The backup power forward in Detroit, is it going to be Henry Allison? Is it going to be Tone Tolliver? I've got no idea, and neither do you. And I don't really think there's much to look at in terms of tournament value there. At centre, Brookie Lopez is at 54. The salary keeps coming down because the production's way down. He has given Andre Drummond absolute nightmares in the past, like nightmares. He's got an average against Detroit of 40 in his last 3 games against them. I think he's a brilliant GPP play. Now, I know it's a risk and it's he hasn't been playing, but yeah, he has torched Drummond. And if he starts getting it and feeling it, there's a real chance here for Lopez. It's a different team, different situation, different coach, but 5,400 makes him a really good tournament play. As for Drummond, well, he still does. He still was able to do okay against Lopez. He's at 92. He looks like a different man. I'm okay with using him, but I'd probably lean more tournament just in case the Brook Lopez nightmare gets back into his head. Because legitimately, it has bothered Andre Drummond significantly over the past season to the impact that it has impacted him and his games on the court offensively, because Lopez has just been tearing him 1, 2, 3 new arseholes at the same time. That's how significant it has been. On DraftKings, Randall at 43 is much more interesting at that sort of a price. You've got Nance, who's at 49, who I'd steer clear of, while future MVP Kyle Kuzma's at 47. I would definitely take Randall in a tournament there. Drummond at 82, I feel okay about. Well, I like Stan Johnson at 43. Lonzo's at 7,000, maybe in a tournament with a triple-double bonus on DraftKings could work, while KCP tournament, obviously. I like Reggie, I like Brandon Ingram, I like Avery Bradley, and I like Toby Harris, and I'm still on Brook Lopez, although it's not quite as on as I am with FanDuel for Brookie over there. All right, let's talk about Yahoo DFS, go through some players that I like there. John Henson, at $11 is strong. Stan Johnson, really good. The Blue Swimmer, Tyler Eulis, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Malcolm Brogdon, I think are good cash and tournament plays. And just one reminder, if you're going to enter cash lineups, please enter it into a tournament. It's nothing worse than having this awesome cash lineup and then looking at the tournament and going, oh shit, I would have had $5,000. I would have had $20,000 because my cash lineup would have won it. Just throw it into a tournament. If you do a cash lineup, throw it into a tournament as well. I like Sabonis, I like Boyan, I like Al Jefferson if Sabonis is out here clearly. McCurr, Hollis Jefferson and Alex Len, TJ Leaf, Brandon Ingram and Jeremy Grant I think are pretty strong on Yahoo. Levert, Labissiere, Nance is not a bad play on Yahoo at his salary. I think there's some value there. Dazza Collison and Dragan Bender is the minimum over on Yahoo, so I think that works. Reggie Jackson, Toby, and Drummond are all pretty strong plays against these Lakers, while Thaddeus and Vic Oladipo for the Pacers both have some value. I like Yanni for cash over on Yahoo as well. Well, Chrissy Middleton, probably more of a tournament guy given his salary. On Moneyball, John Henson at $3,500. Just start your lineups with John at that price. Sabonis at $49 is also strong if he plays. McCurr's at $32, so in a tournament, everyone's going to be going Henson. Go McCurr in a tournament over on DraftKings. TJ Leaf at $31 if Sabonis is out. Eulis at $35 has some upside there. Thad, Dinwiddie, Ingram, Hollis Jefferson are both strong, or all strong, while L. Jefferson gets that bump at $3,700. If we have Sabonis out. I like Stan Johnson, I like Julius Randle, Chrissy Middleton, Daz, Andre Drummond, Brogo, and Yanni. Avery Bradley and Vic Oladipo are also pretty strong plays over on Moneyball. I reckon that just about does it. Make sure you are checking out LockedOnFantasyBasketball.com. You can find all episodes of this podcast there. And of course, Basketball Monster, where not only you can find the podcast, but you can find all our projections, all our tools, Smart Tool, the daily projections, weekly projections, Trade Analyzer. Matt's waiver wire article will be going out at some point in the next day or two. Schedule analysis, the comments sections, Greg's DFS articles 5 days a week. Plenty of stuff over on Basketball Monster as well. If you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, tune in. Actually, let's go back to it. If you listen to this on Apple Podcasts, leave a review. 5 stars. It is the greatest way that you can help support this show. Subscribe, and you can also do that on TuneIn, Google Play, Spotify, or Stitcher, and of course on YouTube, where you can subscribe, give it a thumbs up, and leave a comment below and share it with your friends. That would be awesome if you can do that. I don't know why the views are. I just can't get them higher. I see other YouTube videos about fantasy basketball, and I just go, why are they so much higher than mine? I need to get those YouTube views up. So if you're listening to this audio, just go click on it on YouTube. Make me feel better. Get my YouTube numbers up. Make me come in and go, even if you watch it for 5 minutes, just go watch it on YouTube so I can feel better about myself. Cool. We are done here, guys. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. See ya. Greg Popovich.